Help me welcome Shannon.
All right.
Shannon, alcoholic? Oh, it's good to be. No pressure. My friend Eric just drove from Illinois to come hear us today, just so you know that. So then anybody that couldn't drive 40 minutes to be here today, shame on you. And he gave, I think, the best loving advice we give anybody just before they speak. He said, don't screw it up. Right? So I'll try my best not to do that. I'm honored to be here. I really am. I was here last year for the first event. It was amazing. I'm honored to share the podium with Chad and Julie and Nicoletta. Nicoletta's also my sponsor. Girlfriend. But she sure is one hell of a teacher in my life. Should I tell them the story how I met you? Sure. Why not? I met her in the med line at the psych center. And, just kidding. Sort of. I met her in an AA meeting. She came and spoke at my home group in Queens. And I had about 5 months sober, I think, at the time. And my sponsor was friends with her, my first sponsor. And she came and spoke, and I remember going up to my sponsor after the meeting, and this is truth, I'm not trying to be funny. I don't remember a word she said, but it blew me away. So I had to tell my sponsor this. So I ran up to my sponsor, and I'm like, Adrian, oh my God, I had tears. I'm like, she is unbelievable. And he said, stay away from her, and go put away the chairs and take care of the coffee. And I was like, what the I guess I didn't listen. Many years later, right? So I'm here to talk about the 4-step. And Julie, you did such an amazing job, and I mean, you all did. And what really, I was thinking about it sitting here, why do we even do an inventory? Like, why do we do one? And I think looking back, without a true inner first step experience, meaning, in our innermost selves, a 4-step's impossible. I mean, think about how many people do we lose around the inventory process, right? Or, I love it. The book says that, and I'm going to paraphrase what it says. It says, but you're basically going to come to a place where, you'll go on to the bitter end, blotting out your intolerable situation the best you can, live in the dream world, or go to a halfway house in Boca Raton. Or get in a relationship. Or find that new external thing to try to fill an internal vacancy. Right? Actually, what the book says, for anybody new here, it says, or to accept spiritual help. Man, spiritual help, what the hell's that going to look like? That's scary. And I love, Julie, you talked about, I actually have it written on the top of page 44, where am I currently agnostic in my life? Where am I and you nailed it, wherever there's a struggle. Yes, wherever there's a struggle. Wherever I have mental anxiety, wherever I have doubt, wherever I have a fear, wherever I'm trying to wrestle. You notice Bill actually wrote the word rest with a W in the book. Anybody notice that? Wrestle. I feel like I can just, and you get to a place, and I really love it. I think they could rename chapter 4 with, how's that working out for you? Right? Bill was nice. He called it We Agnostics. But it's really like, how's that working out for you, Chief? And just like Julie and Nicoletta did such a beautiful job describing, as it wasn't working out so well. With or without a drink. I drank after 7.5 years sober. And we were talking about it in the parking lot with Eric and Chad, and I can tell you why I drank again. See, a lot of times we come back in and, so-and-so drank again. Well, how come? He stopped going to meetings, he stopped talking to his sponsor, I believe, this is just my experience, I believe that those are just subsets and byproducts of not living a life of self-examination like Julie talked about. I really do. I got all fired up in AA, and I mean, I was you couldn't put enough microphones in front of me with the first time I got sober. Like, I was, woo! AA! And I was sponsoring a bunch of people, and I was starting workshops, and, I was doing all crazy stuff up in Rochester, New York, where I'm originally from, and I started a big home group. It's still going on today, and I was sponsoring guys. I was going out making amends. And again, this is just my story. It's not his fault, but I had a sponsor who didn't have experience with steps 10 and 11. It's not his fault. He's behaving at the level of consciousness that he can, just like I am right here, right now. It wasn't his fault. So we got the 10. I'm like, I hear people in AA talking about this 10 and 11. Like, what do you? He's like, well, those are kind of living steps. So I'm like, okay. And that's why I went out living. And after 7.5 years, and I'm not going to get into, but because it's kind of leads to this. After 7.5 years sober, I ended up moving down to New York City and getting a beautiful job, and I had arrived, and subconsciously I forgot I was sick. And I'm just like Fred, this is a true story. I woke up one day, just like today, a beautiful day today, there wasn't a cloud on the horizon. I went to work that day, got on the subway, went down to downtown in Manhattan, down on Wall Street, and went up to my office. And just to speed up the story, I thought it would be a good idea to take pain medication from one of my sales reps that was selling it to everybody else in the company. And here's the insanity, and then I'll get on to the inventory process, because this is what happens. The insanity that we're talking about in the second step happens to me sober. And this is what insanity sounds like at 7.5 years sober. This guy was divvying up, he was divvying up Percocet in his cubicle in the office. And I walked around the corner, and he worked for me. He was one of my sales reps. And I walked the corner, and I went, that was the first thought. And the second thought was, how many of those can you get? And the third thought, as my hands extending to grab these at 7.5 years sober, here's this man, you want to talk about insane. I had back surgery prior to that day, years ago. My back was fine. But the subtle insanity that precedes the first fill in the blank, subtle, it's like a whisper. Shannon, it's okay because you've had back injuries in the past, and if you take these kind of proactively, it won't hurt you in the future. How is that any different than whiskey and milk? Jim gets a bad rap sometimes. We mention it, we slap our knee, what an idiot. Until I look at my own collapse. Until I look at how am I any different? And so I bring all of that up, and I mean, here it is right here. Why did insanity return into my life again after 7.5 years sober? Because this thing that I have is so much deeper than booze. Booze treats that. And what it treats, and I love, Julie, that you talked about it, so I won't be the only one that sounds like a freak up here, is you talked about self is not you. I think that is very important. I really do. I've had a whole new experience, and what I'm about to say did not happen when I had 2 weeks sober sitting in my apartment. I didn't. But here's the thing. The third step prayer says, God, I offer myself to thee, to build me and to do with me as thou wilt. And then it says, relieve me of the bondage of self. Good job. Doesn't say me. Bill was a hell of an author. I'll be honest with you, I think one of the most prolific authors of our time. I really do. If Bill met me, he would have wrote it. He would have wrote it. What I'm asking God to do is relieve me from this narrative, from this construct that I think is me, that's been talking to me since I was about 3 years old. That's why I drink again. I need relief from that. I need relief from that. That's why I'm going to God saying, please relieve me of the bondage of that. And when you get to the inventory process, and you come, and I love it. You come out of the third step prayer, and if you've got a decent sponsor who's properly armed with the facts about himself, he gave me 2 options. He said, "I'll give you 2 options when you can start writing." And it's right from our book. Next or at once? I'm like, Next or at once. Why? Because if we let it linger and we let it go on for weeks and months, and the ego grabs a hold of it, the same construct that I'm trying to get relief from will take it all and massage it and spit it back out that maybe right now is not a good time to do the inventory. It's not, eventually. Eventually I'll get to it. Eventually I'll get to those amends. Eventually I'll get to those. And so, and here's the thing. Why did I do an inventory? I did an inventory because in February 13, 2012, I'm on like 3 hours of sleep. Under the influence of vodka and orange juice, a prayer came across my lips sitting in my apartment, and it was very similar to Nicoletta's. As I said, God, I can't do this anymore. Now, I knew when I said those words in hindsight, it was more than booze. It was more than just drinking. I didn't understand the depth of it. I love what you said. And we all know that, like my friend Bob B says, that life is lived forward and learned backward, right? The spiritual path is hindsight. It is. Until you start to really get into 10 and 11, then you start to touch current. Every once in a great while, I'll do a drive-by in the present moment. I'm like, oh, right, it's all there. Right? It's like, oh my God, that was the present moment. Back to thinking again. But I did an inventory because I came to a place like it talks about in a vision for you, and I know what it says, but I'm going to paraphrase it because I couldn't. Life sucked not drinking, and it sucked just as equally drinking. When life hurts sober and life hurts not sober, a lot of us do, like it talks about in the book, we make the ultimate sacrifice rather than continue to fight. We kill ourselves. We kill ourselves. And Julie, you said it, and this is true, and I learned this from my friend Kurt through some work with him, is I wanted to kill myself, but I would have killed the wrong self. I would have killed the wrong self. I would have killed the wrong guy. The wrong guy would have threw himself in front of the A train as it was coming down the tracks that morning. I would have killed, I would have killed the father of my daughter, So, so we come out of this third step prayer, and my sponsor's got this weird, like, black and white marble book he got from Staples with, like, a pen already, like, attached to it. And I'm like, and he's like, all right, we're getting ready to write. And here's what surrendered looks like. When he pulled the thing out of his backpack at his apartment, this notepad, my mind was like, let me just. But I extended my hand, and I said, okay, what do you want me to do? And I said, he said, I want you to go home and just write a master list. We're not even going to get into columns right now. Go home and write a master list of everyone who's ever pissed you off. Whom. I like what Bill did there, whom. That covers yesterday in the third grade, with whom we were angry. People, institutions, and principles. Prejudices, all that stuff, right? And I remember, I'm like, that's going to be a long list. And he goes, oh, I know. And that's okay. Don't try not to judge it. Just write. Don't even think about it. So I went home and I wrote out that master list as the best I could. And actually, let me rephrase. I got about halfway through the list, and I started looking around the apartment thinking, I haven't cleaned my apartment in like 2 years. I wonder if the landlord would be objective if I went to Home Depot and got some paint and actually started painting the place. Like, this place could use some real color. You know why you're laughing, right? Because that construct is terrifying. That narrative that's been, I think back in the first grade, that narrative was already hammering on me. It was already talking to me. I could have used a rum and coke in the first grade. That's the truth, right? I could have used a mixed drink in the first grade because it was already on me. And what happens, you multiply over the years, and what's happening, what I realize in hindsight is when you're selfish and self-centered, and I used to think the same thing, like I'd hear you guys say selfish and self, I thought you meant like, this is mine, I'm keeping it. No, life's happening to me. Yeah. Life is happening to me. And that's a lot of moving parts. I mean, no wonder we drink. It's medicine, it's medicine. And we're suffering from what the book calls a spiritual malady, and I just want to kind of inject in there. This is my experience, please. I'm only here today to share my experience. Doesn't mean it's right, wrong, good, bad. I'm expressing to you, to the best of my ability, with the tools that I've been given, words, to try to define and explain to you my relationship with this thing called God. Doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong. But I will tell you this, through enough meditation, through enough practice, and enough inventory, I do not believe that I have a soul sickness. I do not believe that I've ever been spiritually sick. Ever. I believe that I suffered from a mental narrative that told me I was spiritually sick. It told me I had a spiritual hole in my soul. I spent my whole life filling an imaginary hole my ego dug. It wasn't even real. It wasn't even real. So I do this inventory. I get done, and my sponsor says, "All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly what the book says. We're going to put them in columns. We're going to do 3 columns on the front, and then we're going to turn the page, and we're going to do what we call the 4th column. Where are we selfish, self-seeking, dishonest, and frightened? That's it." Yeah, the eagle's like, "Whoa, wait a second." But I did it. So I went home and I sat in my apartment and I did exactly what he said. He said, "Why don't you bring God into it with you?" I had 3 weeks sober when I wrote my inventory. Wow. 3 weeks sober. We didn't rush through it. The night that I met my sponsor, dying from untreated alcoholism, he was an iron worker at the time in New York City, and he had fallen on some scaffolding, got hurt. He was out of work for a while. What a coincidence. And I was literally at this guy's house. I lived in Brooklyn at the time. He lived in Queens, and I had no car at the time, go figure. And I would ride my mountain bike over to his house with highlighters and a big book and a notepad and enthusiasm and vigor and willingness, because I was beaten into a state of reasonableness. Why did I do this inventory? Because I just came in touch with the collapse of my own existence. Gig was up. Like it says in our 12 and 12, my scorecard read 0. Just like Nicoletta, I had no more lies, no more excuses, and no more reasons why I was so pathetic. And I don't mean pathetic as a judgment. I meant I was broken. I was broken. And the irony is we all know the place, all of us who have touched that area in our lives, that brokenness. I love when a new guy comes in and he's got no more nothing. He's like, he's got tears running, right? He's got tears running down his face, and you say, "How you doing?" He just goes, "Perfect." Right? Because we know that's where we have to get to for the rest of this journey to fall into place. I am not going to do an inventory if I've still got an out. If I've still got if the construct's still running the construct, I'm in trouble. If that narrative is still, and that's why a lot of us don't do inventory. It is because we're listening to the thing we're trying to get free of. We get home, the sponsor says, "Now or at once," and I'm like, "Is that in dog ears?" I wonder if. The mind starts creating all these scenarios where right now is not a good idea to do all the. I have a drinking problem. What the hell do I have to write inventory for? Like Julie said, I'm here because I drank too much. Anyway, so I'm writing. So let's get down to brass tacks here with the inventory. How long do I have, Julie? An hour and a half. Here's a narrative. Who's usually at the top of the list? Thank you. Mom. Dad. How dare they? Right? I'm resentful at Mom. Actually, let me start off with my dad. I've never met him. I'm 54 years old. I have no idea if he's alive or dead. I've tried to find him on social media. We've had some people try to find him, to locate him, because I just want to tell him I love him. I just want to tell him I love him. And I'm going to talk about the amends process later, but I can stand here before you and tell you how I feel about my father today because of the inventory process. What the inventory process did was snuff out the truth, the thing that I've been drinking over for 40-some years. And this is what an inventory sounds like. And this is what a narrative sounds like written in columns. And there's a part in the book that I think is really important for someone like, at least like me, is just before Bill gets into the columns, there's a sentence right above it. And it says, we were usually as definite as this example. I'll say that one more time. We were usually as definite, that kind of means like this, as this example. And then right below it, he's like, I'm mad, I'm Mrs. Jones, freaking snitch, blah, da, 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 da. There's not a fifth step. There's not paragraphs. There's not, and you would think there would be at my father. But what came out was, I'm resentful at my dad, and here comes the second column. Here comes the narrative. He left me. He left me. Now, I just got done sharing with you. I haven't talked to my father since I've been alive. I don't know where he is. I have no clue where he is. He left me. Sounds reasonable, right? Until you do inventory. What's that affect? All 7 areas of self. Absolutely. I brought that into all my... you know what's funny? Even after all the healing that's taken place over the years and inventories, I still see remnants of that I bring into relationship with me today. 100%. And I joked about this last week when we spoke at a little thing up in New York. When my partner, Nicoletta, my teacher, would come home and ask a really difficult question like, how was your day? I'm like, whoa, that's deep. Like, Jesus Christ, you just got home. Like, can we kind of work into that? But what is that? I think a lot of that still is that another human being's trying to connect with me, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm scared. You're going to hurt me. I'm afraid you're going to hurt me. Now, that doesn't rule my existence anymore. That is not my reality. It was when I washed up on the shores of AA. There was no cross-reference. So I'm resentful at my dad. He left me. What's that affect? All 7 areas of self. And then we turn the page and we look at the 4th column, and where we selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened. And I'm never going to forget what my sponsor said to me. And this is very important. This is and I'm going to mix 5 in with 4 to save time. But what I didn't share with you guys is here it goes. I have to guess. I have a 26-year-old son I've never met. Now, at the time, he wasn't 26. But see, this is the importance of sharing ourselves with our sponsors and trying to be as raw as we can at 2 weeks sober. But one of the things I had shared with him over a meal was that I had a son that I never met. It's funny how that came out in the 5th step. And here's what it sounded like. He was a man with love and with compassion and understanding, at least during the inventory process. And I'm resentful at my dad. He left me, and it affects my personal relation, pride and self-esteem and sex relations. And by the way, let me touch real quick on sex relations. What I've learned over the years is we're not just talking about the bedroom. I have old prejudices when it comes to the sexes that men should and men shouldn't. Women should and women shouldn't. And I didn't even, you know what this thing about prejudice is? You don't know they're a prejudice until you walk through it and look back and go, Jesus, that was a prejudice. Like, I didn't even know I was carrying that stuff around with me. And where do we learn this stuff from? Really, where do we learn all these prejudices from? TV, commercials, Calvin Klein ads. A man should be this, a woman should be... Now, please, this is not my belief system, but this is what I grew up with in the 70s. Women should be barefoot in the kitchen. Look at the women, they're like... I said I didn't believe it. I hate that speaker. He was the worst. That's not what I believe. I'm telling you, that's how I grew up. I heard those things. Good boy, bad boy, right, wrong, good, bad. And what ended up happening is it built this egoic structure, this thing. All humans have an ego. I know we think we have like carte blanche on it. And we don't. Ours is just really extreme. Bill actually says that we're an extreme example of the ego, right? And then what's it say after that? We usually don't think so. Why do we not think so? Because I can't see the construct from the construct. Yeah. You come in AA, you got a week sober, you think you got a drinking problem, which you do. What'd you do? And then somebody's speaking and they're like, well, your real problem is selfishness and self-centeredness. She's like, what? What the hell does that even mean? So I'm mad at my dad, and I carried that with me for years, for most of my existence, till I was 40 years old. I'm 54. I got sober when I was 40. For 40, I can't. 2 and 4 doesn't count. But probably from 5 to 40 years old, I hated my father. He was he left me. Can't believe what he did to my mother. And see, here's the thing with the inventory. There's nowhere in the inventory that negates the trauma that we go through. There's nowhere in the inventory that says that stuff was right. All it's really saying is where are you in this? That's what I love. And again, I'm not here to, I really do love everybody. No, I don't. I love most people in AA. Catch me out. Depends on what day it is. But honestly, seriously, like, you hear this in AA sometimes. I was doing my inventory, and then I got to the place where it talks about my part. It actually doesn't say that at all. In fact, it's the polar opposite. And again, I'm not saying you're wrong by saying that. I'm just look at it from a different angle. What the book actually says is disregarding the other person entirely. We look for our own mistakes. We look for our own faults. Because if you got a piece apart, then I'm not going to heal from that. I've been looking at your part my whole existence. What this is saying is where are you in this? Disregarding the other person entirely. And I love what it says. It doesn't say we look for where I was a piece of crap. Because that's the way I secretly felt all my life. It says we look for our own mistakes. Oh, I made a mistake. And when my sponsor said that to me, I said, I'm resentful at my dad for leaving me. And he looked over at me, and you could see him thinking. It got real quiet. Anytime a sponsor gets quiet, buckle up. My father left me. He abandoned me. That's a big word for us, right? Abandoned. He abandoned me. And he looked over at me with a pause, and he said, don't you have a son you've never met? I never saw that. Never. You could have paid me. I could go to 900 meetings a week for 35 years and never see that. Never. I was blown away when he said, you'd think I would, if anybody would know, it would be me. Oh yeah, I do. I didn't even think, because I was in such a bondage of a specific narrative that it wouldn't let me see the truth. And if you live in that place long enough, you're going to drink. You will drink again. The dishonesty that we're talking about, the inventory process isn't, oh, I stole this card and stuck it in my if I'm looking at life through the egoic lens, I'm dishonest. Because I'm not seeing it from truth. And if I'm not seeing it from truth, there's only one other door to see it from. Dishonesty. And I was being dishonest around the relationship with my father. And then we had a deeper conversation. And he said, well, let me ask you this. How old was your mother when she had you? 17. 17. I have a daughter that's 6 years old. She's going to be 17 in like 20 minutes. Yep. Right? I see it on Facebook all the time. I don't know if I'm going to have time, but that's one of the things I want to talk about that I'm wrestling with now with my daughter. And by the way, that was her when I ran out of when I heard Nick let her go, there goes my boyfriend. Because I don't have a lot of opportunity to see her, so that when she calls, it's like, yeah. And so we're looking at this inventory of my father. And I'll tell you, the reason why it's important, because this is my belief, is when I can see the truth about my mom and dad, all the rest of the list you're doing inventory and you get to the next one, you don't even want to read it. You're like, Jesus Christ, I don't even want. That's called a spiritual experience. It is. I'm seeing the truth. Oh, gee, I can't read this. This is embarrassing. But an hour prior, you're like sitting on the edge of your seat, like at this motherfucking hate, and then when you start to wake up spiritually, you got another man sharing his truth with you, and he's sharing his experience and his inventories, and he had the same stuff with his father. And I'm going through my dad, and I'm resentful. He left me, and he beat my mom, which is true. He beat us, and all this stuff's going on. And I'm living by this narrative, and just because It doesn't negate, this inventory doesn't negate his behavior, but what it does is it helps me see where I play a role in all of this. Not my part, but where am I in this whole picture? Where am I? How is that working out for you? You're 40 years old and dying from untreated alcoholism. You thought about killing yourself the day before you met me, Shannon. Sober. How is that working out? And then he hit me with that question. Don't you have a son? And, we started to break bread and have a conversation around that. And he said, well, let me ask you a question. If you could take back all the harm that you've done to all these people on this list, and you could see your son, and you could, spend some time with him, be a father in his life, would you do it? And I'm like, geez, of course he would. He goes, I wonder if your dad feels the same way. Truth. What? So then we get to my mom. I'm resentful at my mom. She allowed this to happen. She allowed my dad to, she did this. She allowed my fathers to beat the crap out of me and my siblings, and all the stuff that we go through as children. I used to say we weren't part of the Brady Bunch, and then I'm like, we were exactly like the Brady, like they were drug addicts, sick, but right? Remember when they grew up, they started being in the news and everything. So yeah, we were exactly like the Brady Bunch, but and I'm resentful at my mom, the cause. Listen to these words. She allowed my father to abandon me. It sounds like a 5-year-old boy, something a 5-year-old would say. I'm saying at 40 on a piece of paper in my apartment. She allowed my father to leave me. What's that effect? Same thing, right? All 7 areas of self. And the truth is if I look back and now that I'm awake to the truth is my mother was a child when she had a child. She was a kid. I'm a father now. I get it. If you would have told me at 17 you're just a kid, I'd be like, yeah, the hell, I'm a man. No, you're not. You're a child. And my mom, a child, did the best she could. And my father, she was 17, he was 18. Imagine being a 17-year-old coming home, and I'm paraphrasing the way it went. I don't know exactly how it went, but I definitely see it different. And someone coming home, my father coming home from maybe work one day or whatever the hell you're doing at 18 years old back in the 70s, and he walks in the house and my mom, who's a child, goes, we're going to have a baby. And he's like, no, we're not. And he left. He left. And I think back, looking back at my mom, the way she must have felt. She's scared. She's a woman who never had a relationship with her father. Her father sexually molested her. Her father physically abused her and my siblings. I was just looking at a picture this morning on Facebook of my Aunt Tracy. And again, I'm not trying to get all, but this is what my mother went through. And I didn't see all this until the inventory process. My sister Tracy blew her head off in front of my grandfather. Her sister. See, I'm not sharing all this dark, weird stuff because I see things. I have what's called compassion now because of the inventory process. I can put myself in my mother's shoes. She didn't allow this stuff to happen to me. She was behaving the only way she knew how at a time that any child would. And she raised me at 16, 17, 18 years. She was a teacher. She quit school. She went and worked 2 jobs so that she could keep food in my belly with no father. My dad was like, later. And then fast forward over the years, I come to AA and I'm like, my father left me. And I did the same thing to my son. And I wasn't even conscious of it. He's still out there. I don't know where he is. How about fears? Anybody have any fears in here? Yeah, we laugh, right? The nervous laugh, and that's... And I think a lot of, and really the resentment, really the seedlings of resentment is fear. Mental anxiety. I don't even look at fear anymore the way that I used to. It's not that I don't experience it. Please, I'm not up here today telling you I do not experience that. I just look at it a little bit differently. I don't look at... fear is like if Chad and I were out hiking in the woods and, a mama bear and some cubs walked up on us, there's a natural, innate gift that God gave me that prevents me from going, oh, come here, cute little cubs, come here. Because mama bear is going to rip me to shreds. I have a that's fear. I see that bear and I'm like, Chad, just slowly, let's just step back and go. Push Chad towards the, and then, sorry, bro, love you. But that's fear. If I'm swimming in the water and I see the thing come out of the water, right, I'm going to swim faster. Oh, I'm not going to swim towards the danger. That's fear. This thing that I got going on in my head if you notice on the bottom of 76, anybody who's got a big book, I don't know if anyone's ever noticed this, that Bill put quotations around the word fear. How come he didn't do that with conduct and resentment? Because it's not fear. But it mimics fear, and it's a word that we're so. What's the word? What do we so with fear? We're so comfortable with it. We're so, does that make sense? Like we're so attached to that word fear. That's why. But Bill put quotations around the word fear because we all know what quotations mean, right? Yes, no, anybody? What's it mean? Supposedly, allegedly, not really, kind of a roundabout. It's kind of fear. It mimics fear, but it's not really fear. Yet that narrative ruled my life. I was afraid of everything when I got here. I was afraid of living. I was afraid of dying. I was afraid of drinking. I was afraid of not drinking. I was afraid of cancer. I was afraid of God damn, I remember being early on, I would wake up to go to the bathroom and I have a zit on my face and I'd be like, yeah, that's AIDS. Right? Yep, cancer, some disease the doctors haven't even discovered yet. It was a zit. Right? But I just lived in this narrative all the time. I would be in relationships with women and the entire relationship was she's going to leave me. Wonder where that came from. She's going to leave me. She's 10 minutes late from work. She's out with somebody else. I'm not good enough. I'm not going to be good enough romantically, sexually, all that stuff, right? It's all a narrative and none of it was real. And I love what the book says. It says, fear ought to be classed with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. It robbed me of everything. It robbed me of everything. I was so insecure in relationship. Please don't leave me. Even though I was miserable. Like seriously, I would be miserable in these relationships. She'd walk in, I'm like, ugh. Ugh. Honey, I'm home. Yeah, I know. But don't leave me. I would chalk it up. I would listen to this narrative, but I would say, at least I'm not alone. At least I'm not alone. And then abuse her emotionally with my sarcasm, with my everything, with my little boy, accused, just the whole gamut. I would punish her because I was so unhappy and it had nothing to do with her. And then and what would end up happening is I would just bring all of that with me into the next relationship. And then I would get in the next relationship, and here's the war cry of all alcoholics. This one's different. I can tell. She has a driver's license. Right? She's only been to 2 detoxes. And I sell myself this bag of goods. I put aside reality. I don't see the truth. And desperately what I'm doing is trying to recreate a relationship I never had with my mother. And I punish you for it because you're never going to fit the bill. And everything that I'm sharing with you now is hindsight. I could not have told you this in a relationship. Of course I drank again. Of course I drank again. So I only got a few minutes. I want to talk real quick. Now all that happy news is out of the way. I have a different relationship with the word resentment today. I used to feel that resentment was like, I'm angry at you. That's a facet of it. That's a layer of it. And I actually learned early on, it came back later on. I remember my sponsor and I were walking down 2nd Avenue in Manhattan. We were going to Bellevue Psych Center to bring in a commitment. And he made a comment. We went to Dunkin', got some coffee, walking on the sidewalk, and he goes, I haven't seen you hanging out with Rob in a while. He was one of my sponsee brothers. This is where I had a cool relationship with resentment, a new way to look at it. And I said, yeah, I don't know. He's just not my cup of tea. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm kind of like, I'm trying to grow spiritually, and I got like a month sober, right? I'm trying to grow spiritually. You know, he seems to kind of be doing his own thing. And, you know, my sponsor, like, I'm choked on his coffee laughing. He took the straw and he goes, that's resentment. I'm like, no, it's not. You know, it's not real. I'm not mad at him. Resentment, sentiri, means to feel. Means to feel it over and over and over and over again. And eventually, when you feel something over and over again, eventually it becomes reality. And truth be told is I right now currently am resentful at my ex-wife, the mother of my daughter. I have thoughts towards her. It's not hatred, it's not anger, it's she should be acting a certain way in order for me to be okay. And by the way, in the third column, that's called security and ambitions and personal and the whole gamut, right? When I ran out of here to go talk to my daughter and FaceTime with her, and this is the truth. I mean, anybody in my life knows this about my ex. Her journey and what she's going through right now and her narratives, she plays a lot of games with my daughter. That's the truth. I don't get to see my daughter that much. She's 6 and I miss her. She's my little guru. And what's the cause? Truth be told, shaving off narratives, she's not behaving the way I think she should. I don't say that to be funny. I'm playing God. What's that effect? Bang, bang, bang. And I want to, because just to save time, I want to talk about where I'm dishonest in this myopic view of my ex-wife right now is, where am I being dishonest is, and I shared with you a few minutes ago that when I'm not looking from a place of truth, I'm looking from a place of dishonesty. There's no door number 3. And truth is I go on Facebook and I see or I talk to people in a fellowship that talk about how fast their childhood life goes by. Like 1 minute they're 5 playing with toys and then they're asking for the keys to the Lexus. I actually saw something the other day. A coworker goes, I can't believe my daughter's 21 already. And I have a story in my head that tomorrow my daughter's going to be 21 and I'm going to be robbed of all these precious sacred years while I'm still Superman in her life. And when I have those thoughts and those feelings and I'm driven by this narrative, the byproduct is I'm resentful at Jen. It's her fault. When the truth is that, yeah, life goes by quick. But I just went outside and talked to a 6-year-old. She's 6. And I love her more than anything in the world. And so that's what I've been wrestling with. And how does that affect my conduct? See, that's another thing. Us drunks are kind of real static at times. We hear conduct, right? Because it says now about sex. I don't look at conduct as sex. I think that's one of the facets of it. I look at, Mark Houston said this years ago on a tape, I'm like, I'm going to write that one down so I sound good when I speak. And he said maybe what conduct is how we're showing up in God's kids' lives. And when I'm nursing something like that against Jen, I bring it home with me. I can't be present. I can't answer a simple question like, how was your day? That's how my conduct affects others. It's not just the bedroom. Affects that too, by the way. And I don't say that to be funny. We were talking the other day, we're both going through shifts and different things, and life's heavy right now. There's stuff going on, there's teachings going on, and I was talking to my sponsor the other day and shared him all this. I'm like, I don't know why this is happening. He said, because you asked for it in the 3rd step. I was like, oh yeah. I'm very blessed to be here. I'm very blessed. You'd have a different guy here today if it wasn't for the inventory process. And I love what Julie said. Drunks don't like to live a life of self-examination. We don't. That's the truth. But I'll tell you, I'll end with this. that little girl that I bring up quite a lot in my talks because she means everything to me. With all this stuff that happened to me as a child, the physical abuse, the emotion, all that stuff, the abandon, all that stuff, because of you guys and because of Alcoholics Anonymous, that little girl, God willing, to this day will never know what it's like to have her hands put on her from anger. You know, this process has literally broken generational curses. Generational. My father didn't know his father. His father didn't know his. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I burned my life to the ground through vodka and orange juice. Want to kill myself, come into AA, find out what my real problem is, the root of my troubles, wake up spiritually from that, and my daughter benefits from it. My daughter benefits from it. Other people's lives are at stake here, not just mine. And that's what I need to remember. I want to continue to try to carry this into all areas of my life. And I know that I fall short. That's where 10 and 11 come in. I haven't risen above my human condition because I've done some step work. In fact, if anything, what it helps me do is see the human condition from a place of truth and honor it, dance with it, play with it. We were saying this, if you can't laugh at your own predicament, you're in big trouble. Right? Have fun. We're here to have fun. We really are. We're here to see truth. We're here to walk each other home, like Ram Dass says, right? That's what we're really doing. When I hear Nicoletta talk and Julie and Chad's amazing. I love all three. I really do. I love all three of you. I'm honored to be here today. I feel like the weak link of the bunch. I really do. I hear Julie speaking. I'm like, great, I got to follow that. And then she's like, I got to follow Nicoletta. You know, it's like, right? We're all thinking the same thing, and that's okay. You know, so I love you guys. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for listening about this thing called an inventory. And it's kind of cool. You do enough of this stuff, you get to a place where you realize that the inventory is not you. We're actually taking inventory of the false self. And that's where the freedom really begins, because I wake up and realize that that's not me. And then I don't have to drink anymore. Thanks.